All right, so here we are with the God of War Ragnarok full discussion stream. We're going to be discussing the game, the story, the characters. We're going to be actually doing this again because the first stream we didn't have the mic on apparently. I don't know why it shut itself off on the OBS, but here we are. So full spoilers. I'm not. We already went through summing up the story. I'm not going to do that because we're kind of going through it anyway.
Well, the first act.
Yeah, like the first act of it. Basically, just to be even briefer than I was before.
Until
we start up, yeah, up until Tyr. We start up. We start up with Kratos and Atreus getting hunted by Freya. We escape her. Odin and Thor show up. We get into a fight. Kratos gets into a fight with Thor. We find out too Atreus is trying to look for Tyr. We follow him into Svartalheim, and also Sindri is helping Atreus, by the way. Follow him to Svartalheim. We find Tyr. We get him out of there and
Sindri's house, realm between
go to
realms.
Sindri, realm between realms,
and then you asked me if I knew Atreus was the bear because Kratos fought a bear, and
yes.
Basically yes. The answer is yes because well, two main reasons that I'm thinking about. One is because just in Greek mythology, or at least the Marvel movies, we know Loki could shapeshift. That's a thing. So I'm like, all right. And then also in the first game, after Kratos tells him he's a god, he's like, well, can I turn into a wolf or anything? And I'm like, oh, so it wasn't that hard to figure out. It wasn't like, I was like, it's probably going to be Loki. Because, like, also, again, that big bear, the other bear got killed. And I'm like, well, then where the fuck is Loki? So I'm like, all right, that's probably Loki. Yeah.
So, yeah, and then
You got all emotional.
with all that, though, the area, that initial area is pretty much the same in terms of structure as the initial area from 2018. And in fact, I think they do kind of use the structure of 2018 for a lot of the game.
They do,
but they do
that.
change things up at certain points as well. Obviously, with the parts where you actually take control as Atreus. But just to talk, going from that, going into the Thor fight itself, it was a good fight, and it was pretty big. I don't know if I liked it as much as the Baldur fight.
So that I was also gonna say, just when you brought it up, when people are saying, "Oh my God, this is the best God of War opening," I'm like, all right. First of all, God of War 2018 had a much better opening because I think with Baldur, I don't know, the choreography with Baldur was just more interesting to me. Like the hand-to-hand combat was a little bit cleaner with that to me. Like the Thor one was fine, but I don't know. I just felt like that was a little better to me. And then also besides that, I'm like that still wasn't even close to the best because God of War 3 has a better opening. God of War 2 has a better opening.
Yeah, I mean, these games,
yeah.
like these games, like Ragnarok's God of War, like it's a great opening.
It's great, but compared to God of War, no.
It's just, no. Is it the best? I don't know, but it's a consistent thing though in God of War games where they start strong. Like even the first game's opening section on the boat and was great as well. Like that's one thing about the God of War games that's just great in general is that, hey Dexter, how are you? God of War 3 had the best opening. It had that Poseidon fight. I mean, it was really great. But I was gonna say though that Ragnarok itself though is still a great opening. It's just there's other pretty much all of the God of War games have a strong opening. At least the mainline games. All the mainline games have strong openings, and that's just a consistent thing. And that's one of the reasons the series is so great. Is it just as soon as you start the game, it doesn't usually waste your time. I mean, you can argue like with 2018 and Ragnarok, they do have you doing some stuff like kind of moving slowly through the intro area.
Anybody who says that this is the best opening has not played the original trilogy. I'm telling you that right now.
I mean, I can understand why someone would say it, but
no. Only if they played the new ones.
I wouldn't agree with it, but I can understand why someone would say it. Also, I'm just gonna make the chat bigger. Eating breakfast right now? Nice. So, but yeah, so the Thor fight itself, though, I thought was still great. It just wasn't, again, not to say it again, but just wasn't as good. But it was still a great fight, I thought. But the whole cutscene with Odin was interesting, and we'll talk more about the story later on. But I thought it was an interesting way to introduce Odin and introduce Thor and kind of show their dynamic. pretty briefly and give us a hint into what we were going to see later on. But Kratos and Atreus, we go through. I think how we should actually do this. I guess just talking about like each of the. Well, we'll talk about the story actually. We'll start with the story and then we'll get into gameplay stuff. So talking about the story and talking about that cutscene between Thor and Odin and Kratos and Atreus, which is actually before the fight that we just discussed. I thought it was a great scene. I think Thor coming in, obviously they built it up from the previous game. They actually had pretty much the exact same scene, just with the younger Atreus in the previous game. And I just like how Thor comes in and you think it's going to be a fight, but he's just there to talk, which then Odin pops in. He's just there to talk. It kind of subverts your expectations because everything was pointing to there being a big clash, at the beginning of the game. And especially knowing what happened with Baldur too. If you were expecting a similar type of format, you knew it was coming. Mm-hmm. And it did happen, just not in the way that you expected. And also Odin ended up appearing a lot more diplomatic than, well, not necessarily, because again, if you were following the story of the previous game and a lot of the stories that Mimir would tell about Odin,
which I don't mind that part of Odin, but there is a problem I have with him.
And like he's just got a lot of great build up to him, and we'll talk more about him specifically later on when we get into the characters themselves. But just as far as this scene goes, I think it does well to establish that, and also shows, again, reestablishes at the very beginning part that Kratos does not actually want to hurt Freya, because when Odin was basically going to deal with Freya for him, Kratos immediately refused. In fact, that's the thing that really got Kratos to refuse Odin's offer of a truce, a peace, which is what Odin ends up bringing. But there's a lot there. Odin dismisses Thor's son's dying, which Thor seems to care about, but Odin doesn't give a shit about. And we also then find out that Atreus was looking for Tyr, which was something Kratos was surprised by and Odin has a problem with. But does Odin actually have a problem with it? Or did he just see it as an opportunity and the reason to actually go there and talk to Atreus, invite him, sees him as resourceful, maybe, knowing what the lengths he's going through and the progress he is making towards finding Tyr potentially. Some things to think about, and I think it does well to set the rest of the story up in that way. I felt Kratos refused his original offer because he just doesn't trust gods in general. I would have said that too, but there is something in the Codex. Kratos does kind of imply that, not that he would have definitely accepted it, but it's what Odin said about Freya. That's what actually just made Kratos shut it down completely. But anyway, bro, what are your thoughts on all that?
So yeah, that scene, it's not a bad scene like how it's laid out, but I told you my main problem is Odin's dialogue. Like the vocabulary he uses, it seems like something somebody in our generation, the year 2000s, would say. Like the way he's talking, it doesn't sound like how a god at that time. And I get he's supposed to be more sneaky, snaky. I get it, but yeah, that just turned me off a little bit of the character from there. Because he's like, I'll deal with my ex. Like, I don't think a god would ever say my ex. They would probably say something like, I don't know, whatever word, but they wouldn't say, like, some wording just sounded off and weird for that time period.
Well, just to put it out there, that's not necessarily an issue with Odin. That's kind of an issue across the game. And
that's what I'm saying.
In a few things. I actually don't have a problem with it if it was just... I don't have a huge problem with it in general, but I have a problem with it with regards to not like Odin Kratos, specifically.
Because Kratos talks like he's from that time.
But Odin, Thor talks like he's from that time. But my point is, the point I'm trying to say is that like Odin doesn't like Odin. If it was unique to Odin, where he talked like that, then you could chalk it up as, hey, his it's not that he's sneaky. It's that he's always in search of knowledge. He's always in search of different cultures and different ways to
but why is
to
he
do
talking
things.
like a millennial?
He could. I'm just saying, like, there's a way you could explain it with Odin. When everyone else in the game talks like it, then it kind of diminishes that, because then it's like, oh well, okay, no, it's just they're trying to make a lot of the characters, I guess, more relatable in a way, where everyone just talks like we do. Almost everyone, not everyone. You know, like I said, there are some characters,
which ruins
Kratos,
the tone of the game.
Freya,
Because 2018 wasn't like that.
No, 2018 didn't have that.
Yeah.
2018
for some reason,
pretty...
they wanted to make it seem like a fucking Scorsese or movie or something. I don't know, like something with the dialogue just felt way too modern, and it did ruin the scene for me a little bit. Like, Thor wasn't bad till you get into the fight with him, and then he says, "What the fuck did you say?" It's like, I don't like think a guy like Zeus would never say like, "What the fuck did you say?" Like, when they say fuck, that is not something that I believe a god would use. They would use a more dignified vocabulary, and that kind of ruins it for me, you know. But,
yeah, to me that's one of those things that's like, it's there. It's not necessarily a good thing, but
I mean,
I don't care about stuff like that. As long as the game in general and the story in general is strong,
because it makes them not feel like gods. Like, now I'm looking at Odin, and besides Odin being kind of looking kind of pathetic, when he's saying my ex, I'll deal with my ex.
That's the difference. I don't have a problem. Yeah, I get it, but like, I don't. My thing is, I don't get, like, I don't care about that, because as long as in general it serves the characters well and kind of gets them to where they need to be. Yes, I wouldn't write it that way. I don't think they went the best route they could have with it, but I don't know. It's just it's such a minor thing. It's one of those things that, like, yeah, if I was comparing it to another great game that may be something like that's close to it, that may be something that I'd say, all right, well, that's kind of a knock towards Ragnarok, because they didn't really stick, not even to godly talk. That's the thing I was going to say. Not necessarily godly, but just that time period, that those lands, like, it doesn't stick to that. Although maybe it does, because Brock and Sindri, if they're anything to go by, they kind of talk how they did in both games. You know, they're not like they weren't modern in
Brock is the exception, but like, other than him, nobody else should really.
Well,
I don't know. Like, Brock, for some reason, it works. Like, I can't tell you why. Just even in 2018, like, when Brock spoke, it just worked with his character, because it was the way his character was written. You know, with anybody else, when they start, you know, swearing like the way, it just sounds off. It's like, because Brock's also not a god, remember that. He's not a god. When you have these gods or these deities, like, talking like that, it does ruin the vibe.
Just to get back to the story, though, so, you know, they end up going, well, first off, they end up going to Sindri's house in the Realm Between Realms because they need somewhere else to rest. Probably a good thing to do, so you're not going to just be in Midgard the whole time, and it kind of gives you a way to get to each of the realms, and it makes sense. Mm-hmm. So that was fine. You go to Svartalheim, and you go to the dwarf town. Everyone's hiding from you. And actually, Mimir explains that, you know, that's just one of the things Odin told them, is that they shouldn't trust outsiders, and that's just a way to keep them under control. Again, just another way to build up Odin. But the one thing, though, is Odin's actually there too. Like, he's one of the dwarves that
on the bridge.
Yeah, he's on the bridge, which it's like, yeah, you wouldn't really know that until
you do a side mission.
Yeah, until either you do a side mission,
and even then you still won't know, because you wouldn't like remember that little thing that far into the game. You wouldn't be like, wait, did I see that character before? No, you wouldn't. It's
like, holy crap, that was him. He was spying on us. I mean, we knew he was spying on us anyway because of the ravens that fly around everywhere. But still, that, you know, he knew you were on your way to Tyr, and he had his plan. But we'll get to that in a bit. You go through the town. You meet Durlin, who we don't know fully. Well, no, actually, we do. They do say basically that he is under Odin's thumb, because all the dwarves are. But he used to be rebellious. He used to be someone who was a fighter, and he just had all the fighting spirit beat out of him.
And he's kind of a forgettable character.
He doesn't do too much.
Yeah.
He's a pretty minor character, but he does also give you, he helps you out indirectly.
Now,
he tries to make it.
That's something
seem like,
I thought about.
Yeah,
that was Odin's plan. Like Odin wanted him to give you the map.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the thing. Like,
so was Durlin helping you, or was
I don't think so. I think it was all Odin's plan because Odin would have to make sure they, it was like, to do the whole tier thing. So Odin could spy on them even better, figure out where they're hiding. And that was all Odin's plan. Like, that type of stuff I like about Odin. Like, when they do that, but it's just when he speaks sometimes. It's just like, Jesus Christ. Just
well, so...
Talk, man.
So we end up going through the whole temple, we find Tyr. And, even Kratos brings up, too, which is kind of a hint about who Tyr is, that spoiler, that he ends up being Odin. But he ends up... But even because I remember when I first played the game, and Kratos, I think I don't know if it was Kratos or Atreus, someone had mentioned it was kind of easy, and it was almost a little too simple to get Tyr out of there.
That's what I even said when I first played the game, but I didn't think it was Odin really yet. But I was just like, something was off because I was like, yeah, there wasn't a lot of guards. It was just one fucking door.
You rescue him, and
the door wasn't like hard to break down. Like the door wasn't like super locked, and you had to find keys. It was just Kratos did his blades, pulled it down.
Well, granted, Kratos making it look easy doesn't mean it's easy, but
no guards being around. It was like it did seem a little off.
I might be misremembering. I think there's people around. Like, there's definitely enemies around in the area.
But not like enough.
Maybe not right in front of him. Yeah, but it wasn't like super guarded. It was like you'd expect for Tyr.
Especially if Odin knew that you were sending people, like that you were going there, which he was like, oh, they're gonna still try to find him. You would think so, and then that is why it was so great when you find out it was Odin, because that makes sense why it wasn't him.
A lot of the little things throughout the game that you see with Odin, like, Odin as Tyr, even just Tyr, like, you can believe, because it still plays well into why people believe that Tyr was actually Tyr, or that, like, the way they write it out, the way they write Tyr, like, yeah, he's a bit frightened, he's running away, he's trying to get away from them, and then eventually he's just all about peace. But you can believe that about Tyr because he was locked up for who knows how long. You could believe that someone like that would not want to fuck with Odin, or might not want to, mess with him, might fear him. You could believe even that maybe he's secretly working with Odin, which is what I had thought. I had thought that's where they were going with it. You could believe, like, a lot of these things about Tyr, and you could believe he was a peaceful god because that's how the previous game built him up.
I honestly thought, like, Tyr did a spell on him that made him become a pussy. That's what I thought.
Odin.
Yeah.
You're saying Odin.
Odin did a spell on Tyr that made him like a pussy like that. That's what I thought. But, yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought they did a good job with Odin playing Tyr to,
but then it also
make
makes
it
sense.
Somewhat believable. But they do some small. They put in some small hints throughout the game that's like, wait a second, when you go back, it's like, hold on, yeah, that's right. That was a hint right there. Like when I replayed the game on God of War, I was noticing some things that really just made it like, it's crazy you don't see these things afterwards, but also, that's with hindsight. When you're doing your first playthrough, it's very easy to miss some of these small hints to that. Even something like the subtitles, Tyr's name not having the apostrophe or whatever it is above the Y. Even something small like that hints at it. But yeah, so they get Tyr out of there. Tyr doesn't really want to fight anybody. He does go with Kratos and Atreus to Alfheim to see the Groa. I forgot what it was. The mural. They see the Groa mural, so Atreus could do his thing where he goes inside and they see the true secret of it. And the Alfheim section was like that's something where it just felt like they were rehashing from 2018, where it was a good section. They did some new things, obviously, with the light elves, but you were still going through the same area. But they did open it up more too. Like you have the whole desert and stuff that you explore in side missions and things of that nature. But just stick with the main story though. They go through the temple. They have to get to the mural, and they get in, and then they find out that, oh yeah, no, Ragnarok's not going to destroy all the realms. It's just going to destroy Asgard, which is something that, like, when thinking about it, yeah, they did always imply in the games it was all the realms that would get destroyed. Yeah. But yeah, no, I always knew like that Ragnarok only destroyed Asgard, or at least that's what I always thought.
But Odin wanted to try to like make it affect everything else but Asgard.
Well, he was trying. Well, yeah. It's not even that. Or no, he was just trying to prevent Ragnarok. He was trying to make everyone believe that it would destroy everything. Yeah. And Groa told him that it would destroy everything, not just Asgard. So that actually lent some truth to what Odin was trying to to the lie Odin was trying to sell. But in reality, Groa told him that, but it actually destroyed just Asgard,
which is how it was always in Greek mythology, Norse mythology.
But then you know that again that this is where one of the other hints about Tyr dropped, where Tyr just was really kind of pissed off about the fact that Groa lied to Odin about well, not that necessarily that, but more so that she lied about the Ragnarok prophecy, which again just a nice little hint thrown there. But you go back, and I think it's after this that Atreus goes on his own. I think it was either before. That's where he goes. It's either before you go to the Alfheim or right afterwards, where he then goes and he wants to seek out Freya because he thinks that he'll be able to convince her to help them, because now they can travel between realms and she can go after Odin now. She doesn't just have to stick in Midgard. Well, actually, no, he doesn't know that he can get her out of Midgard, but that, you know, they can take down Odin now that they have Tyr. But she doesn't go along with it. Also, Sindri tries to convince him to talk to the World Serpent. World Serpent just tells him to go to Ironwood, which ends up being a huge mistake. But then, actually, I guess then, after Alfheim, we do go to Iron. I'm getting it mixed up. No, you go to Freya. After Alfheim.
No, after you talk to the Serpent.
No, you know what? I think it's before Alfheim you talk to the Serpent, because you go to Ironwood before you do the section with Freya and Vanaheim. Oh. Because remember, Kratos, that's when Atreus like is trying to get back, and then Kratos meets up with Atreus and condemns him for being gone for 2 days. So all right, so then Alfheim, then when they get back, then they go through to then Atreus gets mad at Kratos, but that's not where he storms out. He just goes to sleep, and then he kind of wishes to go to Ironwood, because that's what he was told by the World Serpent, to go to Ironwood.
I have to use the bathroom.
All right, go ahead.
So you keep talking. I'll be right back.
Well, in the meantime, I'll talk about what we've already discussed. So Leo, what's up? Kratos farted, which ended Ragnarok. The end. That's not exactly what happened, Leo. I think you're telling a lie there. But yeah, so everything so far is really just setting up the pieces of Ragnarok. It's really just everyone kind of putting things together, and really it's Atreus trying to get things in motion. Like Kratos, throughout all of this, this is one of the things. Kratos does not want war. He does not want to go to war with the gods. He doesn't want to go to war with anyone. He just wants to keep Atreus safe. Atreus is like, let's go to war. Let's take it to Odin. Let's start Ragnarok and destroy Asgard and free all the realms. And you know, it's good to see them at odds, and I think it's in a way that makes sense. Kratos, obviously, with his history, wouldn't necessarily want to start Ragnarok. He wouldn't want to. He wouldn't want to. He wouldn't want to just fight the gods, because again, he knows that there are consequences. That's actually one of the things that they maybe not so subtly hint at when Atreus walks by earlier in the game, when Atreus walks by a bear that he had killed when he was a bear, when he was angry and upset about the whole thing with Fenrir. And Kratos basically flat out tells him, and the cubs are like angry at Atreus, and Kratos flat out tells him that there are only consequences for your choices, or something along those lines. That's not the exact line. But that's the thing, it's kind of telling you, even back then, that, hey, yeah, Atreus, you keep going this way, you keep going into war, it's not going to matter what you did. It's going to matter, the aftermath is what's going to matter. And that's something that ends up getting played up later on with the dwarves. But then we have Ironwood, which... The thing with Ironwood, you can take that entire section out of the game. Like, someone could mod the game and just take that entire section out, and pretty much the rest of the game will make sense. Like 99% of the rest of the game will make sense. There'll be a couple things that it would be confusing, like when you meet Angrboda in Muspelheim later on, and you meet her at the end of the game when she rescues Kratos and everyone in Asgard. There's a couple things that wouldn't make sense, but those could be some quick, easy, either removing her or changing her to a different character to get it done. She herself doesn't really do much for the main story. The actual section, the actual story of Ironwood doesn't really do much for the rest of the story. It's a giant side mission designed to make you, I guess, care more about Atreus. To build his character up, to build her character up. And I don't know, it just feels like a lot of things could have been done better with that. Could have been, first off, it could have been shortened a lot, because not only does the whole thing feel like a side mission, but there's actual sections within it that feel like side missions that you're forced to do, like collecting different plants from different parts of Jotunheim to bring back so she can make her... I don't even know. I can't tell you what it was that we needed to go and do all that crap for. Like, there's a couple good parts about Ironwood. I do think the whole thing with her being totally about prophecy, being 100% committed to it. Meanwhile, Atreus, while he's more on the fence, he's in denial about what happens, because he sees the mural where Kratos ends up dying, and he is trying, he just can't accept that. And so it kind of pushes him more towards Kratos' line of thinking, which is that, hey, you know what, we can't let this define us. We have to fight it. We have to fight prophecy. We have to fight fate. And he needs to find a way to save his father, which works out. But then you also have Angrboda, who's just all, nope, this is what's going to happen. Deal with it, Atreus. Deal with it. Yep, this is it. This is the prophecy. Which is actually something Atreus would probably do with Kratos, but it's a good way to, I guess, get the shoe on the other foot and kind of show Atreus what he looks like when he's just preaching prophecy to Kratos all the time. And also does play well, I think, into later when Atreus and Kratos make that promise to not be affected by, or to not let prophecy define their choices and to make their own path. So it does accomplish that. But I still don't think you needed that whole section for that. And there's better ways you could have gone about that. The stuff with Angrboda and her aunt or I think it was her grandmother, who was the giant, who you have that boss fight in Ironwood, and she's just angry, she's bitter, she's upset. I think the whole thing was that she's upset about her daughter dying, and she goes all crazy, and I don't know. I like it just all feels like something that, hey, you know what? Could have maybe made a good side mission, a good side quest to do while you're in Jotunheim, or maybe even later on you come back when you're able to go back and go there with Kratos. You know, maybe doing it at that point, much later on, maybe even with some implications for waiting so long. Maybe the boss fight is a lot tougher, or what. Like, there's ways they could have done that where it didn't have to be a main part of the story. The main thing that, again, she did was, hey, Anthony, what's going on? The main thing she did was, or the main thing that whole section did was kind of show Atreus the prophecy with Kratos, and that he dies, and gives him even more motive to try and stop that and to try and prevent that future. Anthony, how you doing today? Welcome. I'm gonna be right back. I gotta use the bathroom now. Matt's still not back, so I will be right back, and then we will continue with the story discussion. Gamer's not bald, he's hair follically challenged. Alright, so I guess we'll get Matt's thoughts when he comes back in on Ironwood and whatever else I talked about. But just to move things along, Atreus ends up wanting to go back home, so he goes back home, which then leads to Kratos finding him, like, back to the Midgard home. Kratos finds him there, then we get into a fight with the Valkyrie, find out that that's Freya. Freya's still trying to kill Kratos, but Kratos and Atreus somehow managed to... Well, really it's Kratos telling Atreus, because when Atreus is about to attack Freya as a bear, and Kratos stops him. Kratos manages to, I guess, convince Freya indirectly that, yeah, you know what, we're on her side. Ultimately, we need to go after Odin. And Freya actually really, I don't even know if that's more it. That might be, like, partially it, but Freya also needs Kratos' help to free her bonds that keep her in Midgard. So that's where we're going. By the way, guys, feel free to comment on any of the stuff I'm discussing with regards to the story and share your thoughts. If you want me to read them, let me know. But we go to Vanaheim with Freya to do that, because that's where you have to go, and she ends up, and we end up breaking her chains free. We also meet her brother Freyr, and there's some tension between her and him. And Kratos and Freya throughout this journey actually talk about their family members and some of the things that Kratos actually had done in Greece to his family, and some of the things either directly or indirectly he did to help hurt them. Talks about Deimos, talks about his daughter Calliope from Greece. Talks about, kind of builds up a relationship there and shows that there is some type of connection. And of course Freya is still very mad at Kratos because Kratos still killed Baldur, and she's still considering killing him. But they go through, get to see Vanaheim. We go in and break her bonds, and we can end up after that taking her wherever we need to go. She's no longer stuck in Midgard. And there's a great scene there with Freya contemplating killing Kratos or not killing. She ultimately decides not to and continue working with him. And I do have my thoughts on this in general. Like, I think this is a great scene. I just don't know if it... I think it was placed a little too early. I think there's more they could have done with Freya being at odds with Kratos rather than, the beginning of the game she's mad at him. She's still mad at him while he's going to free her. They free her, and then all of a sudden, Freya's pretty much friendly with Kratos throughout the rest of the game. Gamer, what are your thoughts on Thor's dead children? They were kind of useless. But yeah, Freya could have... I think they could have done more with Freya. Even if she's working with Kratos, kind of being opposition to Kratos, and could have even played more into Odin's character too with her, but again, we'll talk about that when we get into that later on when we talk about the characters. So we get back with Freya from Vanaheim, and Atreus is mad and upset because, I don't know, he's a moody teenager. He wants to go, he's considering going to Asgard. He thinks it might be a good move. Kratos is completely against it. Atreus gets mad. Atreus storms out of there, and he goes to Asgard. And really, this is where the game, I think, picks up big time. I think everything from this point onwards is where the game really starts getting going. You get to try and work with Odin. You get to meet Heimdall. You see how much of a prick he is. You get to talk with Thor for a bit. You get to talk with Odin. I love the scene with Odin. After Atreus fights Heimdall, I love the scene with Odin, popping in and being all friendly to Atreus, and just seeing just acting like a kind old, a gentle old man who's just trying to talk to Atreus, and even knows Atreus is gonna try and kill him, and even jokes about it, about how, oh yeah, no, Atreus, you're not gonna kill me right now, right? I could try and convince you, that this is the right way, and Atreus is like, yeah, sure. I like the whole scene, and I like the interaction between Heimdall and Thor was great as well, and you get to actually do a whole section with Thor, and Thor basically just destroys the enemies in Muspelheim, and it's really cool. It's actually great. You have an NPC that actually just is stronger than you. You can basically just totally dominate the enemies, and you don't really have to do much outside of move away and not get hit. But you get to see more into Thor's psyche, and you see that he really is just Odin's muscle. He just does whatever Odin tells him and doesn't think. That's a big thing with Thor. Don't think. That's something that Odin hammered into him, probably from when he was a fucking baby in his arms, assuming Thor was ever that small. He's just a mindless muscle. He's just mindless muscle for Odin. I like when Odin says, no, go smash something, will ya? Honestly, I liked you better as a drunk, and made the person who killed one of his sons sleep in their bed to add insult to injury. Yeah, Odin does a lot of things. I feel like just to kind of poke fun at Thor and pretty much whoever else. It's a great section in Asgard where she's... That's been in the bathroom, by the way, for 15 minutes. Hope he's okay. He's just trying to... It's implied that Odin loves Thor's moms, but Thor is implied to have killed her. And so Odin blamed Thor and treats him like shit for it, and Thor drinks because he feels he deserves it. Huh. Where is it implied in the game? I'm not 100% sure that's ever implied, but maybe I missed something about it. It's definitely something small I could have seen them fitting in somewhere. But yeah, so Thor and you get to go through that section, and then we actually cut back to like Atreus remains in Asgard, and oh, big thing. So the reason he and Thor went to Muspelheim is to find a piece of a mask. Odin has this mask piece that he wants to complete, so he can find what this. There's like a tear, like a realm tear of some kind. It's not a realm tear, but it's a green light tear that he's trying to figure out. He's trying to find what it means, and he thinks it's gonna be the answer to everything. And that's kind of his main motivation at this point, is to complete that mask and get that. Odin plays it off like he just wants to find out what happens after he dies. Like that's the main thing. He's just, oh well, I just want to find out what happens, that's all. When in reality it's probably a little more nefarious than that. But he plays it off as he plays it off, and it's overall a great section. I really like the Atreus section and the first Atreus section in Asgard. I think it's just really, really well done, and I think it's the best Atreus section in the game, easily. Mimir states that Thor's ma was one of the only women Odin loved with no strings attached. I know that. And some lore marker implies that Thor had something to do with her death, but it's never elaborated upon. Okay, alright, so maybe it is implied. And that would certainly explain Odin's disgust with Thor. Anthony says, you see, Ares saw the problem by having a family. Ares? Odin couldn't have Thor be his perfect warrior because his family keeps him human. So Thor represents what Kratos would be like if he was loyal to Zeus. Ah, okay. That's an interesting take. But yeah, so, and it's taken a while to get through the story, but there is a lot of story in this game. Kratos and Atreus end up, Kratos and Freya, they end up not knowing where Atreus went, so, I'm trying to think, what happens here? Is this where they went to Vanaheim? No, they didn't go to Vanaheim a second time here, because they just got back from Vanaheim. Well, I have to actually see what this is, because I can't recall what actually happens here. I just want to make sure I'm not getting it mixed up. Oh, you know what? I think this is where they go to the Norns. Yeah, because they have to go to the Norns because he wants to find out, where he just wants answers about Atreus and what they see as far as where this story ends up going, and they end up having to find the Norns in Midgard somewhere and make it difficult, but eventually they find them. And the main thing is the Norns pretty much explain that there is no destiny, there's no actual written thing that's going to go on. It's just everything is so predictable to them. They just know what's going to happen based off whoever they're interacting with, or based off how the universe, like they have the power of foresight, but without there actually being an actual plan in place. So they also explain that Kratos is gonna kill Heimdall. Well, no, they explain that that Heimdall plans to kill Atreus, which Kratos takes as, and everyone else takes as, oh, Heimdall's gonna kill Atreus, so now Kratos has to go and kill Heimdall. And yeah, that's what leads us to the next part, which is Kratos having to find a way to kill Heimdall, because Heimdall is apparently, they need a special weapon to do it, because Heimdall is just that OP. And Kratos, with Brock's help, goes to Svartalfheim. They end up crafting a new weapon, a spear, which is what Kratos ends up needing to use to kill Heimdall. It basically is a spear that he throws it. He has unlimited of them because it's tied to the a Dropnir ring, and it explodes too. You can explode them. So, and it has magic properties. So there's a lot going for it. It's a cool weapon. It's good they introduced a new weapon, but you also get some good development with Brock and some good dialogue between him and Kratos. And yeah, was all good stuff.
So
all right,
what happened?
so sit down, bro, and I will tell you what we're up to. So we talked about Ironwood. What are your thoughts on that? Story wise, like
trash, biggest waste of fucking time. Let alone in a God of War game, in any game, the worst section I've ever played.
Wait, I just want to read Andy's comment here. Like, I noticed how really spiteful Odin is. Remember when Thor said, "What could he possibly teach Atreus?" And Odin said, "Exactly." Like, that is beyond abuse. That is deliberately spiteful. Yeah, no, that was a great line. Andy says it, so it makes sense that Thor's mother death would make Odin so bitter because a lot of Odin's abuse seems so unnecessary. Do you think that that Thor killed his mother at some point, be it purposefully or accidentally, and that's why Odin hates Thor? Because Odin,
I feel like they would have brought it up.
Well, they did. Well, they didn't bring that up. They apparently hinted at. But one thing they did bring up is that Odin did actually seem to really love Thor's mother. And I guess Thor, it's implied Thor killed her, but
how?
Anthony says there's like map markers in the game that kind of point to spots that show that, hey, Thor might have actually done it. I'm not exactly sure. I'd have to look into it.
No, you see, I always just thought it was basically he was just disappointed in his son. It's just, he's kind of like how Kratos was with Atreus, just expected a lot. And, just, it's impossible to please Odin. Like, Odin's just, he expects a lot of his kid where it's, like, impossible to please him.
Right.
And that's it. I think that's really all it is.
So, Ironwood. So, bro, explain why you think the story sucks.
It was just, first of all, it contributed nothing to the story.
That's exactly what I said.
Like, and it's long. It's, like, 2.5 hours. And more than half of that time is spent riding a fucking cow, collecting fucking apples. No, but that's what it is. And then you fight,
it's true though.
Until you get to the final part where you fight, the giant.
Okay, what do you think about that whole thing? Like the story with the giant, the grandmother, and
pointless. I didn't give a shit.
Okay.
Because that contributed nothing to the story. It didn't make me feel for the whatever the granddaughter's name was.
Angrboda.
Yeah, like it did nothing at all for me. And again, even the parts where you do fight enemies, I don't care for that much because I don't think Atreus' combat is terrible.
We'll talk about Atreus' combat later.
But it's lackluster. It's mediocre at best. And compared to, especially, it's like, well, how come I have to fucking do this for so long? So yeah, no, that whole section was just pointless.
I agree.
Like at least the other Atreus sections, even though I think they're way too long, they at least add to the story.
Right, they add to the main plot.
This was just the most, and this was the longest Atreus section too.
The only thing that I mentioned, like story-wise, that was like a positive, is that you know how like Atreus throughout the game is all about prophecy and is all about, oh yeah, that's right, this is what they foretell, so this is what's going to happen, so we have to do this, and he gets to this and he sees the thing where Kratos dies, and at that point, Angrboda is the one that's like, Atreus, this is what's going to happen, you have to accept it, and Atreus is like, no, I have to find a way to stop it. Like, this is the thing that kind of takes him away from just being so focused on prophecy. That's the one big thing that I think this section did well. It at least established that. That said, they didn't need this whole section to do that.
No.
But yeah.
It was
Also, Gamer, can you please change your fucking profile picture?
The worst section I ever played in a God of War game. And that's it.
So, okay, so I talked about that. Then it goes back to, so then you go with Freya to the Norns, where, do you remember that? Where...
No, that wasn't right after.
No, that was right. What was after?
The Ironwood section.
And then it was them because Kratos wants to find out where Atreus...
Atreus went back to them.
Oh, no. I'm skipping ahead.
Yeah.
Kratos... No, because
Kratos and Freya team
I talked about it a lot.
Which felt rushed.
Yeah, they team up
rushed,
in Vanaheim to free Freya's to get Freya's
which
bonds.
felt rushed.
Okay.
And then also she seemed pretty easy to forgive him. Like I don't mind like teaming up with him, but she was like, oh, you know, like no snarky comment to him. It was just like, oh, we're best buds now. Like that's the vibe you got after she. It's like no. I don't mind like her being a little less scratchy towards Kratos, but she like completely did a 180. It's like she really thought they were like best pals now. It's like no. It doesn't resolve that quickly. Like yes, I'm sure you helped her out. Sure, she owes you that, but she's not going to be like we're best friends.
The way I put it was that scene where Freya does forgive Kratos is an amazing scene. It's just not placed in the right spot. It should be placed. It should be placed like much later in the game, like towards the end of the game.
When he has
like maybe even the end.
Like when he has to command the army.
Yeah, like at that point, that would have been perfect.
Like, you know what, Kratos, I forgive you.
But
there should have still been tension between them up until that point. But there
I agree.
You know.
All right, and then it goes into Atreus' section in Asgard, where your thoughts on that. He meets Heimdall. He gets to talk to Odin. He goes on a Muspelheim quest with Thor. So what's your thoughts on all that part of the story?
So again, that Atreus section sucks for the first half when you actually have to get to Asgard. Because again, Atreus' combat is mediocre. It's really not fun to me. And, you know, again, so all I'm really interested in at that point is the story progressing. So it doesn't progress till you actually get to Asgard. You know, you climb the mountain.
And then what do you think about that?
You meet Heimdall, and when you meet Heimdall, it's interesting. You find out he's a little prick. You know, his little mini boss battle with Atreus, if you'll even call it that, was kind of cool. And then Odin shows up. You know, so you get more interaction between Atreus and Odin.
I forgot to bring it up.
And even though I don't like Odin's dialogue, again, it's still built on his character, and it was cool. Like up and again, that first half when you're climbing the mountain sucks. When you get to meet Odin, Heimdall, that's when it gets more interesting.
I forgot to bring it up, but like now that you reminded me with the fight with Heimdall, like I do like that they did that because it shows you like, okay, this is what Heimdall's about. Like you can't hit this guy. Maybe Kratos can. Of course, then you find out during that fight later on that even Kratos will have trouble with it until he uses the spear.
Was that the one where
I'm just saying I liked how like that fight did build up Heimdall and showed him like, okay, he actually might be a problem.
Was the third was that third Atreus section? Was that where you team up with Thor?
Yeah, which is another thing too, because then Heimdall, right? They build up Heimdall, and then Heimdall looks into Thor's eyes because Thor steps up to him, and he's just like. And so, like, that builds up Thor, too, indirectly. Is like it was really well done, that whole sequence.
Yeah. So that first half of that one sucked. Then the second half, especially when you go on your journey with Thor and you see how much of a badass he is, that was amazing. But again, not because of Atreus' combat. That's just because of the story. You know, you're getting the story was progressing and it was done well. Then what happened after that?
Okay, then that's when they go to the Norns, because now Kratos wants to find where Atreus is and see what he has to do.
Like, that was all forgettable to me.
I thought it was cool that, like, the Norns, you know, they basically do tell that this... It's not a situation where everything's actually written. Like, they basically confirm that that's all bullshit. It's just they find human nature so predictable, or like, mortals and God and all that so predictable that they know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So they have like an extreme, like they have Heimdall's thing, but even more extreme.
Like, I mean, it was good. Like, I don't remember too much leading up to it, though. I remember after you see them was when Odin shows up?
That's in Svartalfheim. That's a little bit later, which I didn't get to talk about because we came in. But yeah, so that's that. Then that's when Kratos finds out he has to get something to kill Heimdall, and then they go to Svartalfheim.
Which again adds to this whole thing, which we'll go into later, which is why I believe the Greek gods were stronger than the Norse gods, because even with the magic thing, it was like, you know, Kratos was telling him that his fortune tellers were fucking a lot more powerful. And it's like, I'm telling you, like, that's why I hate when people say, "Oh my God, the Norse gods are so much stronger than me." It's like,
but we'll talk about that stuff. Like, you know. We'll talk about those comments like towards the end. But just as far as that, the whole Svartalheim section with Brock, where you go and you make the spear. What do you think about all that?
That was great. That was great, and it was a cute little scene where Brock was getting all depressed, and Kratos was like, "You're a cool guy."
I forgot to mention too, like the whole reason Brock was depressed. Like, so we find out earlier on in the game that Brock actually had died and Sindri had saved him. Brock didn't know this, and he also doesn't have all his soul bits.
And he thought he was worthless, and then, like, you know, when he's like, oh, whatever, this is like, no, I need a fucking legendary blacksmith to market, or whatever Kratos said, you know, and it was like that was a great scene. That was, like, good character development for both Kratos and Brock, because it shows, you know, that Kratos actually views him as a comrade. Yeah, you know. Like, he actually, you know, respects this guy.
Also, Anthony
which
says,
you very rarely see.
Yeah, no, it was a great scene. Anthony also says Heimdall saw that Thor pisses in his mead, that he is not looking, and his teeth isn't. I thought most of the Norse gods, like Magni, Modi, and Baldur, seemed stronger because Kratos was holding back because he was trying to.
Exactly.
Well, again,
that's the point of the Spartan rage. When Kratos gets in that Spartan rage, none of the gods could hurt him, but it's so short lived. So when he lets go of it, that's the only reason why they give him a challenge. If he was, because basically him in the previous games, he's always on Spartan rage. That's like the whole thing with it.
Yeah, but
like,
so just to go back to the story though. So then they go.
That's why it's bullshit when you say Odin was like the toughest guy. It's like, no, he's not.
And that's when we go to the Odin scene with Kratos. I thought that was just a great scene too. Like, Odin is such a dick in that scene. Like,
which one was
that was the one in Svartalheim when, like,
when he meets them.
Yeah, when Odin, like, comes in. First of all, he comes in holding that Durlin at spear, and then, like, he just starts talking shit about Kratos and, like, how, like, indirectly.
But
like,
again,
he's
it's
like,
just the wording of it. He's like, wording of it bothers me.
I don't give a shit about it was so fucking great. The way he just pokes at Kratos, like he's like, oh wait, I know you're not that guy anymore. Like, but that's right after. But right afterwards, he'll say, well, does anyone even love you? Are you even worshipped by anyone? Like, he's just such a fucking dick, and it's perfect.
It is.
I'm back. Hope you haven't talked about everything.
I just wish the dialogue was better, but it is. You know,
the dialogue in that scene was on point. Like, there was nothing there that I think, as far as your reasons for disliking the previous scene, there wasn't really anything there in that one. The only thing you might not like, I guess, is his accent, like the fact that he uses a kind of modernish accent.
It's the way he words like things. It's like too modern.
Yeah, but Dexter, welcome back. No, we haven't talked about everything yet. We're still like in the middle of the story. So, right, that's just it. That's modern. So that's the only thing. But like, the actual words they used in the scene, I don't feel there wasn't anything like something that wouldn't be said back then. It's just, it wasn't said in an accent from back then, at least that I can remember. But
and then they had that fucking girl, the female Brock and Sindri, who had the fucking southern accent. I'm like, what the fuck is this shit? Like, do they not understand? No, but this is the part of the thing I mean. They are supposed to be.
No, I agree. I agree
Norse
in general
characters.
that
it's like
I agree
off.
in general that it's off. That
it's like in The Great Gatsby, the movie with fucking Leonardo DiCaprio, and they're playing like Jay-Z and rap music in the fucking 1920 airs. It doesn't fit the tone.
Anthony says Odin is a better manipulator than most, that's for sure, and he's more wizard than warrior. Ironic for his pantheon that saw magic as unmanly and possibly homosexual. That was a big deal back then. Well, so just to keep going with the story, so we go back to Atreus in Asgard after that, because again, he didn't leave after that section.
One.
Yeah, that's the fourth one.
And that's when he's with.
And so it starts off. Odin sends him to
Thor's son,
with Thor's daughter.
Thor's son.
Thor's daughter.
She looks like a boy, and she acts like a boy. She acts like a boy.
And she's a tranny, and bro, come on. And then she.
I'm being serious.
And then, you know, they have a little section.
She's more of a man than Modi.
They have a section there where they're looking for the mask in hell, but the twist is Heimdall goes with them. Heimdall's doing something else. We find out later that it's getting the moon. I think it was getting the moon for.
Yeah, because you have to get those other 2 wolves.
Yeah. But while he's doing that, what do Atreus and Third do? They see a nice big dog just sleeping there, and what does Atreus do? Natural Atreus, he just goes up and cuts those chains.
Which is a dog that not even fucking Kratos could have killed.
The thing is, like, everyone's mad at Atreus. No one ever said anything about this dog, about Garm.
Yeah, that is weird when they told him, yeah, just be careful, just you'll see a dog chained up, don't fucking touch it.
If you're going, like, if Odin had said,
seem weird,
or if Mimir at some point when they first went to hell, or if Freya had said, listen, there's a dog there. Like, if any of the points where Kratos went to hell, there's a dog there, he's big, he can destroy everything.
Because, well, that was the thing, because it's like, I could understand if Garm didn't have that ability where he could tear realms if he was just a giant creature, but it's like, no, this is a guy where you even said could destroy the whole world because of his ability.
Like, it doesn't make sense to me that nobody, like, that's kind of a weird thing in the game, and even in the previous game, assuming they had this plan where, like, just
it's even worse than like an Uncharted when, like, you find out Nathan Drake has a brother. It's like worse than that.
Yeah, no,
because like it's just out of nowhere. But it's like you would really think, hey, in the first game when they go to the Hell Realm, it's like, hey, don't you think like Freya or somebody?
Granted, Freya did say not to go. Well, granted, in the first game, at least when Freya first sent Kratos
she
to
did
hell,
say not to go.
Well, not to go across the ridge. So, like, he would have never even gone over there if he followed her instructions.
All right, you see, but that's why the writing in 2018 was better.
Maybe they thought, I don't think anyone is stupid enough to free that dog. Because he is, well, to be fair, I don't think most would try to free a giant dog like that.
I don't think so, but I also think, like, they should still warn somebody about a giant dog being, like a giant creature
why wasn't that in one of Mimir's stories? Mimir knew of Garm. He got pissed off when he found out about it.
It's a creature that could open up realms and summon creatures from all these different worlds to fucking invade and attack.
Well, so anyway, Atreus frees it. Yeah. Odin, like, it's crazy, like, watching Odin's reaction to it, too, when he's talking to Atreus right before Atreus wants to go back. Like, Odin is just, like, he's like, yeah, that was a big mistake. But we have to complete that mask. Like, he's so focused on the mask, Garm is just kind of, like, he's upset, like, he's annoyed about it, he knows it's a mistake, but he needs to make sure Atreus is on his side, so he's still trying to be kind to him. Yep. Steve Buscemi was okay, just a weak final. Okay, well, we'll get to the fights themselves later.
Steve Buscemi.
but
he was Steve Buscemi.
At that moment, I thought Odin will finally. Yeah, I thought Odin was gonna like lay into Atreus there, but Odin.
Well, no. I knew he wouldn't because I was like, that's way too predictable. I would have been like, no, Odin doesn't really care about it. All he cares about is just getting the mask.
Well, but Atreus. But anyway, he does keep his. Atreus was not a prisoner. He let Atreus leave. He let him go, and Atreus then goes with Kratos, and then they have to go and take care of Garm. They need to get him put down. And I do kind of like what they did with it. Like, rather than just having another enemy that you just have to kill to finish off, like, they actually do something kind of creative with Atreus. He accidentally got the soul bit from Fenrir, and then he also learned how to use them in the Ironwood section. I guess something else the Ironwood section did. And then he comes up with the plan to use, I guess, Garm's soul with Fenrir, or put Fenrir in Garm, and
which was the only way to actually beat
Which was the only way to actually beat him.
It was a thing you couldn't kill.
Exactly. And
which was a great.
Yeah, I thought that was a great way to go about it. I thought the fight with Garm itself was really cool.
The only thing that seemed a little not stupid, but just ridiculous. When, like, how did Atreus know about putting his dog's soul in the fucking...
So, like, that's just one of those things that...
It's just like, it came out of
nowhere. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird, like, they set up at the beginning of the game, and he just kind of accidentally says the spell to do it. I don't know, it's giant stuff.
Yeah, but it's like...
giant stuff.
But it seemed like an ability that not a lot of people know.
Mm. And Dexter brings it up, something to talk about as well.
What?
The Kratos and Atreus scene, like, right before they leave Hell, where they're talking about, like, and Kratos apologizes to Atreus, like, for not trusting him, and then they make the pact to not let the prophecy define their choices. That was an awesome scene.
It was good. It was good.
And like that's the type of stuff they needed.
Yeah.
Well, not that they need more of, but like because you can't do it too often. But it was such a well done scene.
All right,
there.
so then they, the dogs.
Yes, so they go back, and at this point, I think that's when they go to where.
When they forgot Tears of Double Agent.
No, they don't do that yet. They go to fight Heimdall, so they go to Vanaheim.
Oh, that's what's.
Oh, you know what? Then to free Freyr. No, wait, but why did they originally
go to free Freyr?
Wait.
Who's Freyr?
That's Freya's brother.
Oh yeah.
No, wait, hold on. Why did they initially go to Vanaheim? Because they didn't go to fight Heimdall.
No, that was to.
Heimdall ended up being there, and they didn't go to free to get. Oh, you know why?
To save Freya's brother, yeah.
But they didn't know Freya's brother needed to be saved at that point. Like when they were at Sindri's house, they didn't know that. They found it out.
Freya just said she was going to help her brother.
Oh yeah, to set up for Ragnarok.
Yeah. Yep. And then that's why you went there, and then Heimdall was there, and I will say that is one of the best boss fights in a God of War game.
I love that fight.
The only thing I don't like about it, and granted, I only played it on normal difficulty, is that it's just too easy, but it is a great fight. It's choreographed well. It's perfectly paced. It's not too long. It's not too short. It really shows the type of character Heimdall is, where it's really he just relies on his ability, but once you overcome that, he's pretty easy to beat.
Yeah, and I do like too how
and it's different from all the other God of War games too.
Yeah, like I do like how when
I think that's my favorite fight in the game.
When you just try attacking Heimdall at the beginning of the fight, Heimdall avoids everything. There's no way to hit him. When you use the spear the first time, Heimdall then after that doesn't actually ever grab the spear. He always flicks them away. So then you have to use like the ground, like you have to throw them on the ground and explode them as he's walking over them. Like I like the stuff like that. And then like Kratos when he's doing the QTEs where he's like trying to punch him, like it starts out he just throws a few punches, he misses, he throws a couple more punches, and he's almost getting him that time.
The whole thing is because he sees that yes, he could like predict your movements, but he may not react fast in time.
Right, exactly.
And that's the thing. It's Kratos is like, shit, if I just punch even faster, I see you could beat him, and that's basically what it was.
Although I think part of that too was because of the spear. I think the spear exploding did like
damage him a little bit.
Yeah,
well, the whole thing was is he was starting to get nervous and started affecting him more.
Right.
Because he wasn't as confident. So once he started losing his confidence, he started getting sloppier, and then that's when Kratos was like, "All right, I got this guy."
Yeah, that cutscene is so fucking good. What cutscene are we talking about? We're talking about where. We're talking about the one with Kratos and Atreus, or because just the whole fight with Heimdall was great. But again, just the whole thing where Kratos is trying to spare Heimdall, but he can't because Heimdall won't let him just spare him. He has to kill Heimdall, which goes with the prophecy that he kills Heimdall, which will eventually lead to his death. Like it's a great way of trying to get away from it, but ultimately still being pulled in because of factors outside of his control.
Yep.
Oh, when you end phase 1 of his fight, when he's punching him, and he finally gets that punch off, and then Heimdall, really shows what he can do too, because he can slow down time. And
he has more, but like we see that he's not a warrior, though. He's not a good fighter.
No,
Kratos
he doesn't ever need to.
Yeah.
He even comments on. He's like, "When was the last time I had to use this sword?" Like
exactly.
Like it's
like the thing with him is like, and that's what's great is because it shows that it shows again how. Heimdall is not a good fighter. He just relies on his power too much, and how Kratos is actually, let alone God powers, is just a skilled warrior.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
So
because we never really, we see it in previous ones, but we haven't really seen that in Ragnarok.
Right.
So
he kills Heimdall. Then he meets back up with Atreus and Freya and Freyr, and Freyr is injured. So he needs to carry him over to the boat. Mm-hmm. They do the boat scene where it ends up flying out into the air, and they're getting attacked by everyone. So the Traveler, which I think it's so cool they had a Traveler companion. I wish we did more with him. Ooh. That was one of the people in Freyr's group. He was a Traveler. He was the guy with the beard. He sacrificed himself. He jumped off the boat.
So what's cool about him?
It's cool to have a Traveler. Travelers are great.
What do you mean by that? What does he do for you in gameplay?
He doesn't. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I wish they had done more with him.
Oh, that's his name.
His name is Burger. Burger.
So you're just wishing you'd done more with him.
Yeah. Because, like, I think he's a traveler. He's one of the traveler enemies. But he's actually a part... I always thought they were great enemies.
Oh! I didn't know that was what one of the enemy types were called. I was like, who the hell are you talking about?
No, travelers are... Bro, those are the big guys, like the ones that sometimes have the shields on their back.
Yeah.
And
now
there
now
are
I know what you're
variations.
talking about.
Yeah, so anyway, he's one of them. Like, there's a whole side quest about them. But I wish they had done more with him. Because, like... Yeah, I don't know. I really like the idea of having a traveler, like, helper around, but that's whatever.
That's
anyway,
like a minor thing. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying it's an issue. I'm just saying, like, it's...
I
just wish they had done more. But, so anyway, so they end up rescuing Freyr, and then I believe at that point, because now they have the horn.
Yeah.
That's when they go back, and that's when...
But Atreus does one more thing.
Oh, yeah. He goes back to Asgard. Because he thinks that that's the best way to go about this now, to actually go back to Odin and complete that mask and try
and get away from him.
They went to Niflheim.
And what did they do there? Oh,
to get the mask. They were just going to get the last piece of the mask. They go there, they get the mask, and it seems like they're starting to get along a little bit. But then after he gets the mask, then Odin comes in. But then also Thor's wife comes in,
Sif.
and she comes in with the Valkyries, and
everybody's simping for.
Odin tells her, like, wait, no, what are you doing? I didn't command this. And then Sif starts talking to Thor. It's like, Thor, do something for once. And that's when Thor's about to kill Atreus, but Atreus had the way out with the stone that Sindri gave him.
Which again, it's a good thing Sindri gave him that right before.
Yeah. You also do see more in this section, like, about how Odin is, how Odin abuses. Oh, also, Odin tests Loki here, too, because, like, he asks Loki, hey, do you know what happened to Heimdall? And Loki's like, no, I don't know. Everyone hated him.
But
could have
Odin
been anyone.
knows he knows.
Exactly, because he was Tyr, and he heard what crazy. That it is so good. But then, so that whole section happens, and then we go back to the house, and that's when the big scene happens, where Tyr ends up... We find out Tyr's Odin because Brock saw through what Tyr was trying to do. Tyr was trying to take that mask. He was like, let me take that mask.
Well, Brock was the MVP of the game right there. After that scene, Brock was maybe my favorite character. Because I was like, he just fucking...
They had to code a bunch of different helpers. Oh, okay. I wanted to see what Odin said to Thor right as Thor said to try to kill Atreus and disappeared. I think Thor just told him to stop. I think Odin told Thor to stop.
I think that's all it was.
Yeah. I don't think there was anything else there. But, although it would have been funny what he said after Atreus, like, got out, which we didn't see.
It was probably just like...
It was probably like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that?
Big, fat, stupid idiot. It was probably like that.
Yeah. Go to a bar and drink some.
Yeah. Like, lose some weight, Tubby. He was probably just being mean to Thor.
Yeah.
And Sif was like, honey, you gotta kill him. And Thor's like, I can't. He's my
Excuse
father.
me, but if you got away to Asgard, where's that idea been this whole fucking time?
Yeah, no, Brock
just
laid into him. Yeah, no, because like once he did start saying that, I was like,
wait, what? You have a way to Asgard? That was the thing that I was like. That's when I knew. That's when I thought I was like, okay, he's about to betray us. I didn't think it. I still didn't think it was Odin. But I was like, nah, he's about to betray us here.
No, but once that, like, right before it happened, I was like, oh my god, I was like, that's Odin. I was like, right when he said that, like, I have a way to Asgard, I'm like, that's fucking Odin.
And everyone was basically just gonna let him go. It was only Brock who was like, listen, hold up, man. You ain't going anywhere until you tell us how to get there.
Yep. Because then there was like other stuff, like he was saying that didn't make sense. Like, why didn't you help us out in the fight and shit? It's like it was like all adding up. It's like,
yeah, and again, it's like it's playing into a live like there's believability in it. With you could expect Tyr to behave the way he does, that Odin acts as Tyr, but it also makes perfect sense that it's Odin, and it's just all really well done. I thought, and it's a great scene too. And so Sindri goes off the deep end at that point.
After that, they go to see Surtur, right? Is that when
because now they have the horn. Now they need to go and get Surtur, and everyone else is doing their part. Like one's going to Vanaheim to unite the elves, the other's going to Helheim to get the Hell Walkers to join them.
Sindri's going to Svartalfheim even though he wants to kill fucking Atreus.
and Kratos and Atreus go to find Surtur, and they end up finding him, and he doesn't actually want, he just doesn't want to kill the wife. He doesn't want to merge with her to get so he, with the Kratos's blades, he finds a way to hold the flames, and then Kratos can stick it, and then,
which again is another thing that's just like, oh man, it's highly very, very convenient that
Dexter says I wasn't expecting that plot twist at all. Oh, you mean the Odin?
No. Odin? I wasn't expecting that he was Odin until he said I have a way to Asgard, and I'm like thinking. Yeah,
I was thinking throughout the game that like Tyr did seem kind of funny. Like I always had in back of my head that he was gonna betray us.
Like you thought he would betray, and I thought he was just put under a spell by Odin and make him a pussy. And that's what I thought it was.
I did not think though that Odin was playing Tyr that was, and that
then
just,
it makes sense.
That's
again,
so much
going back
better
to
than
why that door wasn't guarded. It just makes sense.
And that is so much better than Tyr just betraying everyone.
Yeah.
Like it's so much better that Odin actually was the one that was Tyr.
1,000 times better.
But so then it goes. So then we do Surtur, and then we have a Valkyrie, two Valkyries,
which is much easier than any of the Valkyrie fights in the 2018.
But it's still a cool fight.
Yeah. It is cool. It is very cool. But
Dexter thought he was under a spell too.
I was like, well, he's not fighting. He obviously.
And Odin knows spells, so definitely could have been that way.
But then. It made sense why Odin didn't kill him, because he needs to keep his victims alive. And that's also why he kept what the hell's his name alive? Mir. Besides torture him, it's like in case he ever needs to mimic him, he tries not to kill his victims because he can use them.
So, and the other thing too, by the way, with Brock's death is like, his death is actually like death, because there's no afterlife because he didn't have all his soul bits. That's one of the things they explain.
The Dragon Balls won't revive him.
Yeah, exactly. He's done. Like he's out of existence forever, which makes it even sadder. It's the Fimbulwinter weakened the Valkyries.
Excuse for it.
To be fair,
that's the excuse. But that's the excuse why you have to upgrade your weapon.
Right. Then. To be fair, though, with the Valkyries, it's possible these were relatively new Valkyries versus the ones we had fought. Like those ones just might be stronger because they're more experienced.
But we know the real reason why. It's because it's an actual story mission, and they don't want to be as tough as
I'm just saying, like that's how it could be explained.
But
so at that point they have the horn, and I think, do they just call Ragnarok at that point, or is there anything else that happens?
Well, Surtur mixes with fucking the thing.
That happens.
He becomes Ragnarok. Then you go back. Freya tells you to lead her army.
Mm-hmm.
You blow the horn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Everybody comes, and then and I will say, like how I said, God of War 3 has the best opening. This game has the best final battle in any God of War game.
You mean Ragnarok as a whole? Like from the beginning of when it actually starts, like when you charge in.
The whole final battle, yeah.
Like
the
it is really cool.
Yeah, the whole final.
I do think they could have done a bit more with a couple things. Like they show Thor and Jormungandr fighting in the background.
Well, what's funny? That's not the Jormungandr that was frozen. That was the one that Atreus created. So now there was two Jormungandrs.
But when did he create him? And wouldn't he know he created him?
That was the giant. That was the snake that he infused the soul in.
Oh,
yeah, because they made a comment that the snake kept growing.
Right, yeah.
So that was Jormungandr, but because Jormungandr said, because Thor slapped Jormungandr.
I was wondering why they didn't do anything with that snake.
It's kind of like a butterfly effect or whatever, because like there was two Jormungandrs running around now.
But then the Jormungandr Midgard is still there.
He was still there, yeah. So Thor sent that one back. So then the third one will be created.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it was just like it would just keep creating.
Time travel is so ridiculous. Yeah. But so anyway,
because they said Kratos said this snake looks different, and that's because that was the one that Atreus infused the soul in, which happened before because again Thor slapped him into the past.
And he actually is a giant.
Yeah.
Too, because
which makes sense.
It was one of the giant
big.
souls that he.
That's why he got so big. But it was great just to see it in the background, though. You just fucking see them fighting. And then you fucking see the dragon attacking and fucking Garn. What was the dog's name?
Fenrir.
Fenrir just fucking bites the dragon.
Just completely destroys
it. That was fucking bad. Like, there were so many amazing moments that happened.
Sindri as well, being angry Sindri and just kind of wrecking shit.
Destroying the war machine,
Destroying the war machines and destroying the wall.
No, I even said, like, in terms of, like, just final battles, let alone God of War, that's probably one of the best ones in any, like...
So then, but then it goes into the two final fights. So you had the Thor fight with Kratos, which was basically the first one.
It was okay.
Like, it was okay, it's just...
It was just already done.
Yeah, it was already done, and, like, I don't know, I feel like they could have done more with it as a second fight.
But the Odin fight was better.
The Odin fight was a great fight. It's an easy-ish fight, but like because it's a story fight, but it was a great fight. I really like all like the magic and the attacks that he does, and it shows how different he is from Thor. Like first of all, just before we get into the fights themselves, just the whole scene too with like Thor after Kratos beats him. He's like I'm gonna talk some sense into Thor, and Odin tries telling him, "What are you doing? Why are you talking to him? Stop talking to him. You're supposed to kill him." And then Thor's like, no. And as soon as he says no, just one-shots him, which is exactly how you built up Heimdall. You build up Thor off of Heimdall, and plus what he did at the beginning of it. And then you just have Odin one-shot Thor.
I think that's one of my favorite parts, though, when then after he kills Thor, he picks up the hammer and throws it at Thrud. And sends Thrud flying with it. He's just like, yep, boom, gets rid of her easily.
Like, at first he tries to talk some sense and, talk to her. And then as soon as he sees that's not going to work,
he's like, get the fuck out of here. And just sends her flying away with the hammer.
And like Odin scene. And Odin and them fight. He fights just Kratos and Atreus. And he actually has them beat until Freya comes in with the noose that she got. I think that was from the Norn section. She has the noose, which is what Odin used to hang.
But then she started acting a little handy. She's like, bow before you. I'm like, shut up. To like stop. Because like Odin's gonna get out of it. It's like, Freya, why are you talking all this shit? Odin's sneaky. He's gonna get this shit from you. And it's like that's exactly what it is. So Freya acted a little stupid.
I was like, Freya, kill him. Just
I was like, Freya, what's this whole high and mighty shit? Yeah, kill him. Shut the fuck up, because he's a sneaky bastard. That's what everybody's been saying, and you knew before anybody. And look, and she looked like a fucking idiot when he got
like
the
I do
thing.
Like, and then so it ends up being a 3-on-1, and Odin is now like, oh yeah, no. At first, what happens is Odin tries to convince Atreus to use the mask to peek into the light, but instead Atreus breaks the mask, which breaks the light, and then that's pretty much that. And I'm a little disappointed they didn't do anything with that. Like they did nothing with that. It was just a device to motivate Odin. They didn't show us. We didn't really get to see what happened. Which I think when you build something up like that, not doing something with it.
Well, Atreus didn't want to lose an eye.
Like I get what the real thing is that like Kratos made it a point earlier that this is a shortcut. Shortcuts have a price. Don't go with it. And so I get why they didn't do it, but I don't know. I think we should have really seen what it was.
But so then you do the final battle. They all beat Odin, and instead of killing Odin, Atreus puts his soul.
It wasn't necessary, bro. I don't know. It's not that it was necessary. It's just it's leaving something on the table that the mask thing. Leaving something on the table that could have been that was really built up in this game. I think it's a bit of a problem, but it's not a huge thing. It's just
So after all that, they beat Odin. Instead of killing Odin, Atreus puts his soul in the ball, and nobody wants to kill him. And then fucking Sindri comes out. He's like, all right, nobody will do it. Fucking grabs it and just like smashes it with the hammer.
Sindri smashes it and leaves.
Which is he has every right to do it. He should be able to decide that because like he killed his fucking brother. I was like, yeah.
I do like though, like but the thing is like I can understand Kratos and Atreus not wanting to kill it. I thought it was a bit weird that Freya wouldn't take the opportunity. But I guess you know what, Sindri just coming in and just snatching it.
But I think Sindri doing it was actually more satisfying than Freya.
It was because we saw Brock die, and it's like that ends up working better.
It worked perfectly.
It's one of those things like Freya should have killed him, but what they ended up doing worked really well.
It was better than I think that.
So but
and then that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and then they go back, and then Atreus ends up wanting to go on his own with the balls and the orb, the marbles is what they're called. And but we find out too, you know, we see that they had, but I haven't talked about Faye at all. Faye, there's scenes throughout the game of Faye and Kratos from the past, like in dream sequences, and you know they kind of show Faye's character and show her relationship with Kratos and a little bit of raising Atreus, but not really. I felt like they could have done more with that too. But
I felt like that would have been a great opportunity to actually show how Kratos got there.
It would have been,
but because like I was like that would have been perfect. We would see in the flashback, you know, whatever, him coming in or how he escaped, you know, explaining the Fae, and it's like that was kind of a missed opportunity because now we're never going to see it.
Yeah, Dexter says, but I feel like Kratos, Atreus, and Freya already learned to forgive and all that stuff, so that makes sense. I mean, yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't make sense. It's just I don't know. I think like I don't think Freya's anger towards Odin should have subsided like that. But also, like, I'll talk about Freya shortly. But yeah, so Kratos ends up seeing on the other side of that mural, that final mural too, that you know, he's the god of.
He's the god.
He's the god of war who brings
starts
peace.
crying because he got soft.
He got soft, yeah.
but,
no,
but
like you know, but
it works though.
It works because like.
Because that was the thing I was gonna say. Also, is like, you know, even when him and Atreus rest after they got all the armies together, like, you know, he's telling him the story, and like you actually see Kratos start to like cry a little bit, like he got sick, because it's like before he didn't care about dying, but he actually wants to live now because he wants to be there for his son.
I was gonna say too, and with that story, with that story, that is a great scene. That, you know, before that, I thought that they were laying it on too thick with the whole prophecy thing, and that like Kratos was gonna die, and so I didn't think he was gonna die. But when that scene, I don't know why that scene did it, but I thought that he was done after that. Like I thought the way he told it, and like how he had to finish the story afterward, he would never finish the story.
That's why
I thought that was gonna be the thing.
But then he did finish, and he says nope. He actually instead said he didn't want to, it was whatever, didn't want to die and actually wanted to continue on,
right?
You know, because like he actually loved his life now, cared about Atreus. Yeah, no, so he did get softer, but I think throughout all the games it progressed well.
Yeah,
like I think from 2018 to this, even it was just a good progression.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Kratos' character in detail in a bit, but that's pretty much the whole story. So like just from a story standpoint, I think there's some pacing things, obviously, with the Ironwood section, and there's some things they could have maybe
written a little tighter.
I think I think some stuff. Again, I think with Freya, there could have been a lot more done with that. What they did was fine, and I think the scene itself, where Freya forgives Kratos, is amazing, but just not well placed.
So where do you rank it in all your God of War games?
The story?
No, overall.
Well.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk about that. Yeah, I mean, story-wise, I don't think it's as good as 2018 story as a whole. I think 2018 story is just too tight and too well told.
It's done, yeah.
It's just perfectly paced throughout. It's got such a simple goal.
The narrative of 2018 was done a lot better, I thought.
Eldex says the trash segments, I think, could have been done better. I think Ironwood, and I think maybe the fourth Atreus section could have been done better. But the others, I'm fine with. I like what they did. Hey, Mia, how are you? So, what else was I gonna say here? Oh, so like, let's just talk about the gameplay too for a little bit. Like, just the overall general combat and feel of it versus 2018.
The field of view is way too close up to the character. That's the only thing.
But is it actually closer than 2018 was?
I think so. Because, bro, I swear to God, like, it was bullshit how some enemies hit me. Because I was like, I can't fucking see them behind me at all, and they hit me.
I mean, yeah, this is a God of War Ragnarok discussion stream, so we're not really going to be talking about random stuff.
Yeah. But yeah, no, the combat still is great. It's the same thing. But yeah, I don't know if they raised it or it's just something I've noticed now. But I wish the field of view was pulled back just a little bit. I feel like it's a little too close up where it makes it unfair when I actually get hit. Like, because I'm like I couldn't see exactly when it was going to hit me.
Dexter says my problem is that isn't that funny to? Oh, it isn't that fun to play with Atreus.
I agree. That's my thing.
Well, I'm just gonna say first of all, to talk about your thing about the field of view, I think like I don't know if it's any more zoomed in Ragnarok versus 2018, but I think that the view thing is a problem in this game because I think there's more enemy variety, and there's a lot of enemies that just that zip across the screen. Like they had that in 2018, but they weren't as like you'd have like a revenant sometime. You'd have the nightmares, I think, were the biggest problems of that, and then you'd have those exploding guys. In this game, you have all of those, plus you have those little like I don't know what they were, like little tiny dragon things that like zip across you in Sparta Line. You have the bigger versions that also will just hang off of things. Oh, and because a lot of the battle arenas I think are bigger too, there's just a lot of spots that they can be in. It's very easy to lose track of them, and it's not bad. It's just it's just not as
it's noticeable. And it gets annoying.
They really should have zoomed the camera out more, or should have given you some type of camera maneuverability a little bit better than what they had in 2018 if they were going to throw more enemies like that at you.
I think that's I was gonna say I think that's the problem. I think it's the same field of view, but I think they threw too many enemies in. We're throwing too many at you at once where you can't really see everything that's going on. I don't know. I just felt like it was better in 2018.
Well, I think that's one of the problems with a couple of the Berserker boss fights, because like those guys, most of them are fine, but there's a couple that there's not just one. There's like multiple, or one that summons enemies, and one where there's like 3 of them, and it's fine until like they start getting behind you, and then like they're zipping around all over the place, and you can't really keep track of it. But Miha, again, we were just talking Ragnarok.
But it's still basically... So, but I don't think the combat really... Like, it may have improved slightly from 2018, but it wasn't, like, a lot. It wasn't, like, enough to really make me notice that much of a difference.
They did some different things with, like, like, with the armor and stuff.
I was gonna say, the leveling up, what is it called? Not the HUD menu. But you know, where you have to upgrade and stuff, it was done so much better in 2018.
Yeah, I liked it more in 2018.
It was more simple to find
I do like, though, like, I like a couple of the changes, but then a couple things I don't. Like, I don't like that they put all the enchantments, like, when you could, like, slot things into certain items. Yeah. They made it its own thing. But what I do like is that they made the armor, like, they have all the armor potential to upgrade to level 9, rather than what they did in 2018, where it was just, you can only level that up, like, a couple times usually, and then it would get outclassed at some point. Where, like, in this game, in theory, you could take the very first armor that you have, upgrade it all the way, and it could be maybe just as good as any of the others.
Something later.
Right. So I like that. Bro, rotating the camera to 180 degrees is awful in this game, at least with the default settings. Way better when you change to the other method. Yeah, like that, like, it's just, it just doesn't work as well, I think, in this game. I think in 2018 they had the perfect amount of enemies and the types of enemies to make it work.
You know what's
in
also
Ragnarok,
funny,
I don't know.
You actually knew you were going to play as, you're going to have more companions than just Atreus, because when you open up your menu to customize, it doesn't say Atreus, it actually says companion. So like that's like a hint telling you like, yeah, you're gonna have other people with you.
Dexter says is one of the best armors in the game. Oh, the starting armor. I forgot what it was exactly, but like again, it's really cool that they did that. But then they do some other things that I don't like.
You know, the last mission, you know, the southern lady gives you a special armor, right? She gives you that free special armor, which actually is another thing where it's because the armor was called like Changing Fate, so it tells you that Kratos isn't gonna die.
Oh, he's changing that.
Yeah, but I didn't even use that armor because I did that side mission where you save that guy who sacrificed himself and you fight the dragon. So I got the armor from that, and I created that dragon armor, which was much better than that. So I think I like just sold the armor. I don't know what I did with it. I was like, that was just pointless to give to me.
Actually, so I wasn't really a big fan of the armor's designs too. You mean like in general, the designs of a lot of the armors?
I've heard people complain about that because the way it like fits on Kratos looks a little weird.
Well, you know what the thing is though? Well, you know what the thing is though? It happened when I was playing the Gimme God of War run. The final scene, you know, where Kratos and Atreus hug.
Yeah.
You have armor on. It clips right through Atreus.
No, but it's yeah.
But
the gameplay, like I said, it didn't improve really that much for me to really notice a big difference from 2018.
Right.
So I'm not gonna say it's really necessarily better because it really didn't change.
There's some things they did better, some things they did worse, some of the things they added that made it worse. But I think the enemy variety is a lot better though. Like there's definitely a lot more, and there's a lot of things. Like some of the enemies I don't like, but at least they don't have you just fighting trolls as mini bosses the entire game.
Well, now it's like those alligator things.
Well, those Drekkies are one. Then there's the like the giant rhinoceros things, whatever those are. There's also the dragons. There's more of them now rather than just the one fight that you had in 2018. You obviously have the Berserker fights, which are the new Valkyrie fights. You actually have a Valkyrie fight in the game too. Like so they do have a lot there, you know, in terms of variety that I like.
What else in the game?
I think gameplay wise, boss fight wise, like we talked about them kind of as we went.
I think
like the Thor fights maybe were good, but could have been a bit better. The Odin fight itself was great, but maybe a bit too easy for a final fight.
The Heimdall fight was the best.
Heimdall fight was the best.
The Garn fight was really good. The Garn
fight was great too.
And then the other one that was cool was the portal monster that you fight with Freya.
Dexter says, I love the spear, really fun to use when you buy all the upgrades. Yeah, the spear, like, each of the weapons are really good, so you don't really need to use all of them.
No.
But the spear is really cool. I do like how fast it is, and you can use it as ranged, or you can go up close with it. It is a pretty diverse weapon. I think they did a good job with all the weapons.
I think they did too, yeah.
The portal boss was cool, yeah.
Yeah, that was the one I just said.
That was Garm.
Yeah. No, it wasn't Garm.
Oh.
I'm talking about that one you fight with Freya.
Oh.
The first time you team up with Freya.
Oh, yeah.
Where you actually find her thing and release her. Yeah. That was actually a cool fight. It wasn't as good as it was like, I think Heimdall, then Garn, then that one, then probably like Odin.
I'd probably put Odin above that fight, but otherwise I think I agree.
And then like the two Thor ones.
But then there's also, again, some of the Berserker fights are really cool. Like, you know, just talking optional fights. I think it's cool. I think it's cool they did the you did one of them?
I did one of them.
Like it functions very much the same way as the Valkyries, except they have a couple differences. Like there's a couple where you have to fight 3 of them at once, and one where you have to fight 2 of them.
I forgot which one I think I fought the one was it in Svartalheim? Was that the one I fought? I don't know. It was one of them I fought. It was one I saw and I was like, yeah, I'll do it.
To be honest, I would have loved a little more unique boss fights because a bunch are enemies from side quests. Yes, I mean, once you really go into the side quests, you do start seeing, you start seeing some of the ones the same, which I do agree with. But
that's really, but what else? The
soundtrack's great. Oh, so, like, character-wise, I want to talk about, like, each of the characters. But, bro, start off by giving your thoughts on Kratos.
There's that. So, Kratos. Listen, I'll say, after this game, Kratos, oh man, maybe officially became, in my opinion, the best video game character. Just seeing his character evolve, or the progression from him, from the original God of War game, 2005, with all the games up until now, like, it works, it just works so well. And, yeah, no, I think he's if not the best, at least one of the best video game characters now. Yeah, Kratos I don't really have any problem with. Freya I was fine with. I liked her better in the first game because in this game, and I mentioned a little bit before, when she when the first time she teams up with Kratos. The first time she teams up with Kratos, and after Kratos finds a thing to release her from Odin's spell, she is really quick to forgive him for everything he's done, which killed her son. Where before she was ready to snap his neck, and it just felt too rushed that part to me. Again, I felt like if there was still some banter where if you could tell she hold a grudge throughout the game and until the very end, then she fully forgives him. That's one thing. Right. But it just seemed like after teaming up with Kratos for a half hour, she's like, "Oh yeah, we're best buddies now."
So wait. Okay, so yeah, Kratos is an amazing character. He's just to me he's the best at this point. He's there's no protagonist in video games that's just as strong of a character as he is.
Yes.
Across 6, 7, 8 games, whatever it is. Like, it's just so well done. And, this isn't something recent either. This isn't just his appearance in the last 2 games. This is, like, going back to the original. Like, he's
just his overall character progression throughout the
nice
series.
Alarm. Yeah, you guys can hear that fucking alarm. Yeah, just a phenomenal character. To me, you can make the argument he's the greatest video game character of all time. He's just... He's so good. Right, his development throughout, even in this game, even though, you can really, it would only come up if I'm comparing him to other versions of him.
He's a little soft.
Like, he's a little softer, but that's not really an issue in the grand scheme of things. It's just
like a nip. It's like a nip.
It's like a minor thing if I'm comparing him to previous versions.
So Freya, what do you think about Freya in this one? Or overall?
So Freya, I think is a really good character. But it kind of just ties into the whole story thing where I feel like it's not so much with her specifically. I think she's a really good character. I do like her kind of as the new companion for a Kratos. I think it kind of works.
Hopefully she's less annoying than Kratos.
But the one thing...
I'm sorry, less annoying than Atreus.
But, I think, like... Because here's the thing. She just does forgive Kratos too easily.
That's
like
what I see.
The whole big thing was she was so obsessed with keeping Baldur alive. She fails. He dies. Kratos kills him. Kratos kills him right in front of her. And they don't really do much with that.
No.
Like, they could have done so much. They could have had Odin manipulate her and kind of form some type of, even if not a permanent, some type of truce to, like, say, listen, we will team up. We will take care of this guy.
Remember what I said that I thought the ending was going to be originally?
What?
Before the game came out? I said that I thought it would be a really cool ending and something I could see happening where it's like a triple threat match between Kratos, Odin, and Freya. And they just all fight each other. Or Thor, a fatal 4-way. Because, Thor, we could tell, didn't really care for Odin either. It's like just a fatal fucking 4-way, or at least triple threat, where they all just fight each other. Battle Royale.
Could have been pretty cool. Yeah. But the thing is that, like, my idea more is just, like, eventually Freya would, like,
yes,
she would get snapped out of it, and she would eventually help Kratos to take care of Odin.
But not be best buddies with him.
Not necessarily be best buddies, but just, like, she'll see, well, she's been fooled by Odin before, and she got so obsessed with vengeance against Kratos that she got fooled by him again. And, like, it would have just, I think there's just so much left on the table with that I think really could have made it an all-time great story. But it was still well done. And Kratos, Freya, Atreus is, I think he's a good character, but it's just he's a step down from Kratos and Atreus, and, like, he's trying to.
He's lame.
He's lame. He's a teenager.
He's lame.
To be honest, I think I wouldn't ever be able to forgive someone that killed one of my sons.
Exactly. You could, like, set aside your differences to get your common goal, but to become, like, best friends, which is what it seemed like, it did seem a little forced.
Like, I don't know if it works for me, but
like, maybe at the very end.
But just talking about Atreus, though, like, his whole thing is he's a kid who's growing. He's trying. Lame. I don't think he's lame or forget. Well, he's kind of lame, but in a way, but not. No, he's not really. I wouldn't even say lame. I would say he can be annoying at points, but intentionally so. He's written in a way where you're like he's confused about what he really wants, and he thinks he knows what he wants, but he doesn't want to face consequences, and that's the big thing of the game is, like, he keeps pushing forward with something, and he keeps pushing it, and it comes back to bite him in the end. It comes back to bite him with Sindri, and...
But still, Freya is really good. Yeah, no, she is really good. I told you, like, Freya's the love of my life until Thor's wife came along. the one everybody's simping for, Sif.
I mean, it's normal at that age. Like, that's the thing.
Oh,
like,
man.
Atreus is just someone that's very much... He's a growing kid, and he's trying to find his way and trying to figure things out, and he's making a lot of mistakes along the way. But he cares very much for his father. He is more crafty than Kratos. Like, that's one of the things I like about how they used Atreus. I like that they sent him to Asgard, because...
More crafty than Kratos?
In some ways, yeah.
Kratos was a general.
No, not crafty. He's more... He can just be positioned more in certain spots that Kratos can't. Like being able to infiltrate Odin's base, and like Kratos, it would have never worked if Kratos tried to do that.
Yes, it would have.
Never would have.
Kratos would just put on a fake mustache and gone to Asgard and been like, "I'm not Kratos." Oh man.
But Atreus, you know, he's good. He's just, but again, when you're comparing, because he's the secondary main character to Kratos, it's a clear step down from what Kratos is.
I agree with you, Aldex. At the first part of the game, I was kind of tired of Atreus. He's just
the thing with the first part of the game is he's just so much like, we have to go, we have to rescue Tyr, we have to start Ragnarok, we have to do it because I want to do it because Asgard needs to fall. Like, but he got interesting once he started having to work with Odin, because then it's like, all right, is he starting to fall for Odin's thing? And then talking about Odin, amazing villain.
He's good.
One of the best in video games.
Right,
I'd even argue maybe the best. The way that he is, first off, built up in the previous game.
Nishiyama
is nowhere near them. Zeus is nowhere near him.
Yes, they are.
Dutch is the only one that maybe I'd say is above him. But other than that,
Ocelot.
Ocelot's great, but his
Liquid
whole thing is too
Ocelot.
convoluted. It's the same thing. But, like, Odin is such an amazing villain. The way that he was portrayed in this game, built up in the previous game, built up in this game when you're not around him through Mimir and Freya, but also once you get to, like, the thing is, it's one thing to hear about how manipulative Odin is. It's another thing to actually experience it and see why exactly he was able to fool so many people, so many different cultures, so many times over, and fuck them over. Like, you experience that and see that firsthand through Atreus. Like, him putting on, like, him doing the old man act of him just walking up and be like, hey, buddy, hey, come on, we're gonna solve this mess together. We're gonna save the world. We're gonna stop Ragnarok.
Why does an old man want to hang around with a 13-year-old, bro? That's kind of fucking creepy. Because that's kind of fucking creepy.
Because that 13-year-old is his best chance at solving the mess.
Alright.
Remind to Dutch a little bit too. Like, that's why Dutch is amazing, because he's got a lot of the same things. Where like the difference though between Dutch and Odin. Oh, Dutch isn't really evil. He's just. He loses his fucking mind at some point. But
or was it all how he really was, but he just, his true colors started showing, bro?
Nah, because I think it really clearly starts happening after Hosea dies that he starts losing it. But no, like, Dutch isn't. That's the thing. Dutch, like, it's tough to call him a villain in Red Dead 2, even though he technically is one of the antagonists.
He is the villain in Red Dead 2.
But like, Micah's the villain. And arguably the I forgot who the agent was in that game. It wasn't Ross. It was whoever it was.
Not Edgar Ross.
But
and Edgar Ross was in that game.
He was, but he just wasn't.
He was just in the background.
But no, like Dutch, like, that's the only reason I say maybe Odin's better than Dutch as a villain, is because Odin's a villain. Dutch is a good guy that.
I got a question. I got a question.
Yeah.
Does Odin have a plan?
Yes.
Does he have faith?
Yes.
Does he have money?
Yes.
No, he doesn't.
No, he does.
He
had the money he gave. He just threw it at he has as much money as he wants to have.
Does he have a mustache?
He has a beard, so yeah, he technically has a mustache there.
Does he have curly black hair? He's no.
But Dutch doesn't.
Yeah, he does.
Curly black hair.
It's like curly at the end.
Isn't it gray?
It's
like grayish.
Black hair. Maybe in Red Dead Redemption 1, but I'm talking about 2.
But anyway, so like, that my point is like Odin is just so like he can turn on the charm and make you think, oh yeah, no, he's really on my side, but no, then he'll like the second things don't go his way, kills Thor right away. As soon as Thor starts really showing like, no, he's outright rejecting Odin, stabs him, done. Snuck attack, whatever you want to call it, he did that. He tries reasoning a third. As soon as she hammer right in her face.
The hammer thing is just so funny to me. Just picks it up and goes whoop.
Like that's the thing. That's why Odin is such listen, Zeus is nowhere near Odin. The only thing you could argue with Zeus is that he's more godly. That's it.
He would destroy Odin in a fight.
Sure, yeah. But Odin's a far better character. Like, he's a much more interesting character. And
Odin couldn't even beat Hermes in a fight. Like, bro, stop. Hermes? would run around him.
Odin would
No, he wouldn't.
Would destroy
Hermes would beat Odin.
Come on. Hermes is a fucking joke.
Even the sun god's not
frankly, the only gods I think that would actually be able to beat Odin in that game are Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. That's it.
And Hercules.
No.
And Hercules.
No. Odin would stab him just like he did Thor, and that would be it. Most God of War characters in the original games are more like cartoon characters, to be honest. They are, but no, they're not cartoon characters.
They're actual gods. They're actual godly beings.
I would say they're just not like
they're more supernatural.
They're not as fleshed out as I think.
They're more like they're not as super heroic. They're just more like super powered.
I just don't think they're generally as fleshed out. Though not to say that they're not fleshed out, because they do explain Zeus a lot. They explain his motives. They don't really do much. They kind of hint at things with Athena. Athena's an interesting choice.
She's a better villain.
But she's not really a villain ever.
She is a villain.
She is, but she wasn't in the original trilogy.
Yeah, but after 3, it's like, no, she was a villain. And that's another thing that was a missed opportunity in this game. We didn't see any more Athena scenes. They had that one scene in 20. But besides figuring out how Kratos got there, which we never learned, what the fuck happened with the Athena shit?
Well, you know what the thing is, too?
They saw, and also Zeus, like, the whole thing was, they saw Zeus in the Hell place.
Well, Zeus, that was definitely, because Hell manipulates the mind, so,
do you like,
he might not have...
Do you know what
I'll hold on a second on that. Cool. But, like, you know what I think? Like, the light itself was the same color as the Athena from God of War 3 and the image that he had of her in 2018. So, like, the hallucination. So, maybe that light that Odin was trying to go after, that's where Athena is. That might even be Athena. Like, could have done more.
So, you know what a theory was? I mean, obviously it's not true now. But people were saying that Zeus possessed Atreus, because you know when Atreus was acting all bitchy?
Mm-hmm.
They were saying that was because of Zeus. Because that's also why in Hell, when like Kratos asks, you didn't see the old man, he's like, no. There's something like that Zeus trying to fucking...
Really? No,
it was actually pretty cool.
I don't know. I thought Atreus played it off just because he didn't want to, because he knew Kratos didn't want to.
No, but it was just an interesting theory I saw. It was kind of cool. I was like, that would have been pretty cool.
All right, but
because it would have explained also why he acted so bitchy.
Okay, but so with that said, that's Odin. You had Thor in there, like, so yeah, Odin, amazing. Thor was great too, like, just kind of as the muscle.
I just
but
wish
also
we see more Thor, because that guy did a great job.
They did some cool stuff with him. Obviously, his main thing was to really show how bad Odin was.
He definitely took a backseat. As I thought he was going to be the main force, and then Odin was going to be like on the side. But no, it was kind of like reversed. It was really like Odin was the main bad guy, and Thor was just kind of his worker bee.
Yeah, and you know,
which is fine, but like it kind of hurt because like Thor was such a cool character in this game for the few scenes.
Also, L. Dexter did say, "I'm just glad Thor and Kratos didn't hug each other at some point. Glad The Last of Us 2
that was maybe gonna happen."
Like, well, Kratos was gonna let Thor live,
but no. But you see, with Thor and Kratos, it makes more sense. With Last of Us Part 2, it doesn't make sense at all. Like, because
I don't know that it would have made sense with Kratos and Thor.
I'm not saying it would have. Okay, it would have been it's not saying much, but it would have been better than Last of
It
Us
would
Part
have
2.
made more sense with Atreus and Thor if that was the way they were going to go with it. But
Okay, no. I'm not talking about actually hugging, but actually
not
being,
hugging,
like, just like being cool with
just
each other.
forgiving, just like being like, just fine. Let's move on our way.
Well, no, because the thing with him killing Thor's son, that was because Odin sent them to Kratos, you know, and then also like Thor doesn't really have
but the point I'm making is Kratos, while he might sympathize to some degree with what Thor's going through, it's not the problem with the Last of Us 2 thing. Not to get too much into it, but like you don't really. Ellie never really is ever given a reason to forgive Abby or to really like Kratos at least has a reason. He's not necessarily going after Thor the whole game,
exactly,
so it could work.
That's
but I think Atreus would like if they were going to go that route, it would be Atreus being the one that convinces Kratos to spare Thor because like Atreus did get to see Thor. He got to see what he was going through. He knew he was being manipulated. But
what are the characters? There was Brock and Sindri who were. They were great in the first game, but they were even better here because there was more development going on.
And Sindri, like Brock, doing with his whole thing, like he's very much brought that. I wouldn't say he develops as much as he just gets fleshed out a bit more.
Yeah, Brock does.
Sindri develops because of
Sindri develops. Yeah,
and like it's so I love too that they just did not have Sindri forgive Atreus.
Durlin, like I said, was
forgiven. Wait, hold on, we're not skipping past that. Sindri staying mad is such a good thing because like just imagine if after Bragg he as well was just like Atreus, after fighting with you alongside you against Odin at Ragnarok, I forgive you for what happened to Brock.
That would have been so fucking
that would have been so
that would have been
bad.
cheesy. I would have hated the game. No, I'm glad they left it. I'm glad they left it at that because fucking. But you know, I'm also glad though he's not like coming after them because it doesn't like it's not his.
Well,
character.
we don't know what he's gonna do.
but we know he's not because that's not his character. That's not his character type.
Maybe he's gonna be obsessed with trying to revive Brock somehow.
I think that, but I don't think he's gonna try to kill him because then it would just be Freya again all over again. It's like
well, maybe they'd actually do it right this time.
No. But that's not Sindri's character. Sindri's pissed at him, but he's not a killer. Like that's the thing. He's not going to go out of his way to fucking kill them. He's just done with them. You know?
Well, so yeah, Sindri was great too. A lot of the newer characters, like, just to talk about them.
Because would Sindri really be dumb enough to try to fight fucking Kratos? No.
Maybe. I mean,
no.
listen.
No, stop.
Sindri would not be able to straight up fight Kratos, but he can be crafty.
Yeah, but he's not going to do anything. No, you know that's not going to happen.
All right, but Sindri. Anyway, point being, I just really like what they did with Sindri there, and that they didn't do the same thing as Freya did. Where, although, like honestly, Sindri forgiving because really it wasn't Atreus' fault that Brock died. Yeah. Kratos straight up killed Baldur. So like,
well, that's also what. Yeah.
But I guess it also is a nice. Compare like to see the two of them and see how both characters reacted and that Freya, although granted Freya was trying to kill Kratos for years, like for the whatever winters it was between the last game and Ragnarok, so like there was a lot of time that passed. It's just you don't really notice it because I don't know the game.
I mean, Freya's just lucky Kratos wasn't like he was in the first few games because she would have been dead 1,000 times over. Like just imagine if it was Kratos from God of War fucking 2. That first scene you fight Freya, fucking he chops her head off. It's like Freya, you're lucky that Spartan rage.
Yeah, but a lot of the newer characters too. Besides, I mean, well, okay, Heimdall, great character.
He's great.
Angrboda was just she was just there to be
she's like Durlin to me.
Like Durlin, yeah, is just there.
They're just forgettable.
Thrud is like she's fine.
She's forgettable.
Like
they're all forgettable. All these kid characters are forgettable in this game.
I do like Thrud's whole thing of like wanting to be a Valkyrie. I think it's potentially something that's a little more interesting.
She's Thor's son.
Daughter.
She looks like a boy.
But
and acts like a boy.
But like
talks like
Angrboda, like her whole thing could have been a little more interesting with the grandmother, but I don't know. Like, I don't really care to. The problem is that section was just too long. Like you said, that was the whole problem with the Ironwood section.
And it has no relevance to the story.
Right. It ties very little. And the point is, they didn't need to do that whole section for the story. Like, they could have taken Atreus to Ironwood. They could have done the scene with the marbles, and then he could have gone back.
I want DLC where we play as Thor fighting the giant world serpent. And then you punch him.
Dexter says Atreus is good. Oh, speaking of Thor, best companion in any game. He just destroys all the enemies. He can destroy that ancient too, like on his own.
I think that's one of my favorite scenes when Atreus is like trying to like get him to play in the fucking trials, and Thor's like no, and then eventually Thor, and you just hear him in the fucking background, like having fun killing these things.
Yeah.
Like,
I think we covered pretty much. Mimir is Mimir. He's just good. He's really good. Yeah. Just don't want to forget anyone. I mean, Faye was interesting too. You know the thing about Faye though, they don't show this, like, you know, her stuff in the previous cutscenes where she's with Kratos, like in the main story cutscenes, was just kind of, it was cool.
It was filler though.
But it was, you know, it was supposed to. Because, like, she says a lot of things that Kratos ends up using on Atreus later on. Like, so, like, you see, like, it kind of shows where Kratos got a lot of things from, like, as far as where he is in 2018. But the side story of Vanaheim in the crater, the big thing is that they actually fought Thor there. Like, she apparently got really pissed off. No, I guess they went to a stalemate. Like, there's a lightning bolt there.
Oh, yeah.
That's from Faye with the hammer. Well, I'm sorry, with the axe fighting Thor with the hammer way back when.
It was the same thing, yeah.
So like that was really cool, and you hear like, oh yeah, she wasn't always just a tempered, mild mannered, you know, calm
like
woman. She could have been like Kratos too, or not even, but like have moments of that at least where like she could
challenge me.
Yeah, exactly.
I could actually see that.
So, like, I really like that side mission, even if it took like 10 hours to do for me. Well, it didn't take 10 hours, but I was in that crater for a while. Dexter thinks Freya's brother is cool. Matt doesn't.
Freya? Do you know? And somebody wrote in a comment. He's basically fucking Matthew McConaughey in a God of War game. And I'm cool with Matthew McConaughey. Like I actually like him as an actor, but it's basically Matthew McConaughey who does not fit the tone of Norse mythology. Again, it's one of the problems with this game. Some of these characters just feel out of place. Like,
oh man, I think we've pretty much covered everything. Game's an amazing game. Like I said, for me, I just have a tough time. I just don't know exactly where I put it because like, it's definitely below 2018. It's definitely above God of War 1.
See, that I may disagree.
I don't know if I'd put it above. If I put it above 2.
2 is more consistent with how good it is.
Like the real thing that Ironwood. If that Ironwood section wasn't there, I would say it's above 2. But that Ironwood is too big of a thing where I think like it just brings it down enough where I wouldn't put it above 2. But it's up. It's in my top 5 games. It's in my top 5 games.
It's not my top 5. It may be in my top 10. I don't know. I gotta think about that. But
also, Dexter says brother was the one guy that fell off the flying boat. Well, he dived off.
Yeah, whatever his name
but
was.
Yeah.
The guy who sacrificed himself.
God of War 1 isn't that good for me. Dexter says God of War 1 isn't that good for me, to be honest. God of War 2 and 3 are way better. I think God of War 1's better than 3.
I agree.
But like 1's thing is it's just it's a little less it's definitely less polished than 3 is. 3's problem is it starts off amazing, like the first 60% of it is amazing, and then like the last 40% was like
when you get to that maze part, that's when it drops like a lot. Like it just kind of becomes and also really the Hermes boss, like the Hermes boss fight.
Yeah.
Like at that point and afterwards, the game really goes downhill for me.
Yeah, that's my problem with 3 is I just feel like it drops off a cliff after a while. Like, it doesn't get bad, but it just gets to the point where it's...
like, retarded stuff in the story, like, oh, Kratos is the god of hope, and fucking Zeus and all the gods were possessed by dust demons, and, like, it was just goofy. It was just starting to get too silly at that point for me.
But I like the thing with God of War 1 though is it is like they do polish a lot of things in God of War 2 and 3, like gameplay wise. So like someone who likes 2 and 3 better, I can understand.
Yeah,
because 2 and 3 do. I just like 1's story a lot more in like than 3 as a whole. Like 3 story is great, but 1's story is up to that point. It was I think one of the best video game stories.
Yeah. I
like up to when 2005 was like, because what other games were there? There was Metal Gear Solid and 3, Metal Gear Solid 1 and 3, and then what else?
Resident Evil 4.
No.
But let me think. There was something. There was Final Fantasy X, which you never played.
Okay.
That was actually a really good story, but there were games, but it's not like now. But like now, there's like a game coming out every month that has like a
But with that said, Dex says, I don't know. I played the original games like a decade ago, so maybe I find the games different now. I'll say 2 to me just remains consistently the best, and then 1 is like the best of the original trilogy, and then 1, and then 3, and then you get into Ghost of Sparta.
Well, I think you know what's funny. I actually think Ghost of Sparta is better than 3. Because of the story, like I told you, if just that second half or last third or whatever you call it just wasn't so bad, then 3 would be up there. But it's just because of that I have to put Ghost of Sparta above it. Like Ghost of Sparta is just a great story. Like it has a really good story, and it adds to Kratos' character really. Like
no, it is.
You know.
So I think that does it. So as overall, Ragnarok's amazing. Just has some flaws in it that, you know, bring it down. Some things for Matt more than for me, but Chain of Olympus is kind of meh. Chain of Olympus is good, but it's definitely like It and Ascension.
To me, it's my least favorite.
And Ascension are easily the weakest of the series, and even then, I still think those are really good games. Like I still think those are really strong games. Like especially since Chain of Olympus is really just a PSP game, and Ascension is a prequel, but.
I think the problem with Chains of Olympus is even on normal, the gameplay's way too easy.
Telling you, bro, it's like it is, but like that's the way it is.
You could just do the circle thing for every single fucking.
Well, no, not every enemy.
Yes, you can. When you replayed it and I watched it, bro, you were literally just doing that grab thing. And
I did it for a lot. That's true. You did it for like 90% I could have done it. Enemies. All right. Well, anyway,
like it was bad.
That is that for this. Ragnarok. That's that for this Ragnarok discussion stream. We got it done. Bro, you ready for the next stream today?
Yep.
All right, because we're going to be playing a Resident Evil 2 randomizer.
Yay.
So that's coming up very shortly in the next like 5-10 minutes. So I'm going to set that up and we are going to roll with that. Dexter, if we don't see you again, Merry Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas.
And thank you everyone for joining for this discussion stream today. And we'll be back with more in the near future. With more Ragnarok. Bro, we're going to do a whole nother Ragnarok discussion when New Game Plus comes out. We're going to talk about all the differences.
Yeah, it's weird this game wasn't released with it.
Well, 2018 wasn't either, but...
Yes, it was.
It wasn't released with New Game Plus. That came out like later on.
It wasn't?
No, it wasn't.
Oh, okay. I thought it did.
Well, anyway, take care. See you.